It was carved from wood that should never have been touched. A mask, smooth and dark, with hollow eyes, eyes that whispered when no one else was listening. They say whoever wears the mask gains everything they desire. But they never tell you what the mask desires in return. Long before the great cities rose with their glass towers and glowing lamps, there was a village wrapped in silence. It stood where the forest thickened, a place where the trees leaned close as if they were always listening. Travelers spoke of it with unease, for at its heart rested a shrine, an ancient house of offerings built with hands long forgotten. The shrine was no temple of grandeur. Its roof sagged with the weight of moss, and its wooden beams were carved with strange symbols that no one alive could read. Within, the air was always cool, as if a hidden draught whispered through cracks unseen. Offerings lay upon a single stone altar, gourds of palm wine, baskets of yams, carvings of animals, and cloth dyed in colors of reverence. But among all these gifts, there was one object no villager dared to touch. It was a mask. Carved from wood so dark it seemed to swallow light, the mask bore hollow eyes that were not quite empty. They followed. They stared. Its mouth curved slightly, not smiling, not frowning, just waiting. And when the wind moved through the shrine at night, those who passed swore they heard it murmur. Some said it begged. Some said it laughed. The elders called it the whispering mask. And they warned the young, do not look into its eyes. Do not place it upon your face. For it is not a gift to mortals, but a snare for their souls. Most obeyed. Fear is a stern teacher. But where fear teaches obedience, greed always seeks exceptions. In this same village lived a man named Otenna, a merchant whose hunger was never satisfied. Otenna was not poor, his compound was wide, his storehouses filled with woven cloth, beads, salt, and spices. Yet, to Otenna, wealth was like water poured into sand. The more he gathered, the more it slipped away, leaving him thirsting for more. He envied the great traders of the coast whose ships brought gold and ivory. He envied the chiefs who feasted at long tables while drummers sang their names. And most of all, he envied the respect others received when they walked the village paths, heads bowed in greeting. For Otenna was feared, but he was not respected. One night, after the village had gone to rest, Otenna sat alone in his courtyard. His fire burned low, his servants asleep. He thought of his rivals, other traders who bargained better than him, who held the trust of farmers and fishermen. Rage coiled in him like a serpent. If only I could rise above them all, he muttered, his eyes narrowing. If only fortune would bend to me alone. It was then he remembered the shrine. And the mask. He had heard the stories since childhood, how it whispered, how it promised. To others, the tales were warnings. To Otenna, they were invitations. That very night, when the moon hid behind restless clouds, he took a lantern and walked the forest path alone. The trees rustled with secrets, the earth soft beneath his sandals. At last, he reached the shrine. The doors groaned as he pushed them open. The lantern flame trembled in the damp air, casting long shadows on the altar. And there it was, the mask, waiting. Otenna's breath quickened. His hand shook as he reached for it. The wood was cold against his skin, colder than stone, colder than death. For a moment he thought he heard a faint hiss, like a breath drawn between unseen teeth. He lifted the mask. Its hollow eyes stared back at him, and in the silence of that moment, he swore he heard it whisper his name. Otenna. The shrine was silent, yet the air pressed close around Otenna as though listening. He held the mask in both hands, and though the wood was still cold, a strange heat began to crawl into his fingers, creeping toward his arms. Otenna. The whisper was faint, like a sigh carried through dry leaves. His eyes darted around the shrine, no one. Only the mask. He should have dropped it. He should have fled into the forest and never returned. But Otena's heart was a forge of greed, and once struck, it burned hotter with each temptation. Slowly, he lifted the mask and placed it against his face. The world fell away. Darkness poured in, not the soft dark of night, but a suffocating shadow that smothered sound and light. Yet within it, voices stirred. They slithered like snakes, curling into his ears. Gold, power, ships heavy with treasures. They mock you, Otena. They say you are small. Let us raise you above them. Let us make them kneel. His breath came ragged. How? He whispered, his own voice swallowed in the void. Blood, the mask breathed. Just a taste, and fortune will bend its head before you. The darkness thinned. The shrine returned. He pulled the mask from his face, his body trembling, sweat cold upon his brow. For a long moment, he stood frozen, staring at it, heart hammering. Then he laughed. A short, nervous laugh. Blood? I am no killer. This is madness. But even as he spoke, he remembered the goats tethered in his pen, the ones growing fat on his feed. He thought of how little they meant compared to the wealth he desired. That night, under the cover of silence, Otena slit the throat of his finest goat. Its blood darkened the earth beside his compound, and the mask, resting in his chamber, seemed to sigh, as though drinking the life itself. The next morning, Otena's rivals woke to find disaster at their doors. One man's storehouse had collapsed in the night, crushing his goods. Another's trade canoe had been swept downstream and shattered against the rocks. A third fell ill so suddenly he could not rise from his mat. By evening, Otena's yard was filled with farmers and fishermen eager to trade, their voices pleading for his prices, their goods stacked at his feet. He could scarcely believe it. His storehouses groaned with plenty. His name buzzed on every tongue. And when he passed through the village paths, men who once mocked him now bowed their heads in greeting. That night, he sat before the mask, his eyes gleaming with triumph. It is true, he murmured. You keep your promises. The mask was silent. Yet in his dreams, the whispers returned. More, Otena. Feed us more. Your rivals are many, your power still small. Give us blood, and we will give you the world. When he woke, his mouth was dry, his body heavy with unease. But the memory of bowed heads and bursting storehouses swept aside his doubt. He fed the mask again. Another goat. Then a sheep. Each time, his fortunes grew. The storms that wrecked others' canoes left his untouched. Crops spoiled in other fields but ripened sweet in his. Yet with each sacrifice, the mask's whispers grew louder. More urgent. More demanding. And one night, it spoke not of animals, but of men. This traitor, he sneers at you. His wife laughs when your name is spoken. Spill his blood, and their mockery will die with them. Otena woke with a start, heart thundering, sweat drenching his mat. He pressed his palms to his ears, but still the whispers coiled inside his skull. He stumbled to the courtyard, staring at the mask where it lay. The hollow eyes glimmered in the firelight, alive, waiting. And in the silence, Otena realized the truth. The mask would not stop. Not with goats. Not with sheep. It hungered for more. And the more he fed it, the more it fed him. The days that followed were golden for Otena. His storehouses overflowed, his boats returned heavy with fish, and strangers journeyed from distant villages to trade with him. But gold has a weight, and fortune has a price. Otena began to notice the mask no longer whispered only in dreams. Now, even while awake, its voice brushed against his thoughts like cold fingers trailing the inside of his skull. Goats are nothing. Sheep are crumbs. A king does not feast on scraps, Otena. A king feasts on men. He resisted at first. He told himself it was madness, that he would never spill human blood. Yet the whisper clung to him, day and night, until he found himself staring too long at neighbors, at their throats, their hands, their laughter. The breaking point came one moonless night. A rival trader, Ikeen, staggered home from the palm wine tapper's yard, his mocking laughter echoing along the path. Otena, the goat herder turned rich man, he jeered into the shadows. Even a fool may stumble upon fortune once. Otena followed, his heart pounding, the mask's hunger roaring in his head. His hands trembled around the knife hidden in his cloth. The moment came like lightning, sudden, blinding, irreversible. The blade flashed. A cry tore through the night. Then silence. Ikeen's blood soaked into the earth, hot and thick. The mask, though still resting in Otena's chamber, seemed to pulse with light, its hollow eyes glowing faintly as though in rapture. The next day, the village buzzed with the news: Ikeen had vanished. His canoe, his storehouse, his goods, one by one, they shifted into Otena's possession, as if by unseen design. No one spoke accusations aloud, but whispers slithered like snakes beneath every word. Otena did not care. The power surged within him. With every sacrifice, the mask rewarded him. Fortune obeyed him as though bound by chains. But with each life taken, the mask demanded more. Blood is the coin of kings. Spill it, and the world bends. And so, in shadows and silence, Otena fed it. A fisherman lost at sea. A farmer crushed beneath a sudden falling tree. A widow found lifeless in her hut. Each death carefully staged, each blood offering spilled where no eye could see. The village mourned, puzzled by the sudden wave of tragedy. Some whispered of curses, others of angry spirits. The elders gathered in the square, their voices low and grave. But when their eyes turned toward Otena, they found him clad in fine robes, his compound filled with wealth, his laughter rich and booming. Who would dare accuse a man whom fortune kissed so openly? Only one person did not bow before his new glory, Adana, Ikeen's sister. She alone watched him with suspicion burning in her eyes. She alone noted how his rise had bloomed in the very season death had begun to stalk the village. And she alone dared to follow him one night, slipping through the shadows as he carried the mask into the forest. Otena reached the shrine, laid the mask upon the stones, and spilled blood once more. The earth drank, and the mask gleamed. Hidden in the trees, Adana gasped, the truth hammering into her chest. She fled before he could hear her. But in her haste, a twig snapped beneath her feet. Otena's head jerked up. His eyes pierced the darkness. The mask whispered. She knows. Otena froze, then clenched his jaw. His fortune, his power, he would not let anyone steal it away. The hunt for Adana had begun. Adana ran until her breath tore from her lungs, her heart pounding like drums of war. She dared not look back, though she felt Otena's gaze burning at her heels, the forest alive with the echoes of his pursuit. When she finally stumbled into the village square, her clothes torn, her face streaked with tears and sweat, the night guards rushed to her side. Otena, she gasped, clutching at them. He wears a mask, he feeds it with blood. That is how he has risen. The guards exchanged uneasy glances. One muttered, careful, Adana. Accusations such as these can ruin lives. Ruined? Adana spat, her voice trembling with fury. Our lives are already ruined. Do you not see the deaths? My brother, the farmer, the widow, all of them. He kills, and the mask rewards him. By morning, the whispers had spread. The elders summoned Otena before the council tree. He came draped in silks, his staff tipped with gold, his compound overflowing with wealth. Behind him trailed his loyal servants, their eyes sharp with warning. Adana accuses you, said the oldest elder, his beard white as river foam. She says you bring death upon this village. That you, consort with spirits. Otena's laugh rolled through the square, deep and smooth. Adana grieves her brother, may the gods rest his soul. But grief twists the mind. Must I be blamed for every misfortune that befalls us? He spread his arms wide, showing his rings, his fine cloth, his well-fed body. Is fortune now a crime? Am I cursed for working hard, for trading wisely, for being favored by the spirits of the river and land? The crowd murmured, torn between doubt and awe. Otena turned his gaze on Adana, and the mask's whispers hissed in her mind though she did not wear it. He will silence you. Speak, and you will be alone. Adana's knees weakened, but she forced herself upright. I saw it with my eyes, she cried, pointing at him. He kills in the night. He feeds a mask with blood. That is why he prospers while we bury our dead. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The elders looked from Otena to Adana, their faces heavy with uncertainty. But Otena was ready. From within his cloak, he drew out gifts, pouches of cowries, fine beads, cloth dyed in the richest colors. He pressed them into the elders' hands with a smile that masked the storm raging within him. Let us not fan grief into madness, he said smoothly. I honor this counsel, and I honor Adana's pain. Let my gifts prove my respect. If I am guilty, may the spirit strike me down. The elders' eyes dimmed with temptation. Fingers closed around gifts that gleamed like sunlight. Their voices, once stern, softened. Perhaps, one murmured, the girl has been misled by dreams. Perhaps, said another, fortune does not always walk in ways we understand. Adana's heart sank. She cried out, but her words were drowned by the weight of Otena's gold. That night, she sat alone at the edge of the river, despair tightening around her like a noose. She had spoken the truth, yet no one believed her. The mask was too clever, Otena too cunning, his wealth too blinding. And then she heard it, faint, chilling, the same whisper that haunted Otena. He will kill you, Adana. Unless you strike first. Her blood froze. The voice was not her own thought. It was the mask, reaching beyond Otena, stretching its hunger toward her. She clutched her arms around herself, shivering. If the mask could whisper to her, then its power was greater than she imagined. And if Otena had marked her, her days were numbered. The nights that followed were restless. Otena prowled his compound like a lion, the mask always close at hand. Its whispers were no longer requests, they were commands, curling like smoke into his veins. Adana knows. Adana will speak again. Silence her, and you will be untouchable. He could not sleep. Every rustle of leaves, every owl's cry felt like her footsteps, her breath, her accusation. His wealth was piled high, yet it weighed on him like chains. Finally, he resolved to end it. Under a moonless sky, he wrapped himself in a dark cloak, the mask pressed against his face. Its hollow eyes glowed faintly, its carved mouth stretched wide as though drinking the night itself. He moved silently toward Adana's hut. But she was waiting. When Otena pushed the door aside, blade ready, Adana flung a clay pot into the fire pit. The pot shattered, spilling dry herbs she had gathered from the priestess of the next village. Smoke burst forth, bitter and sharp, filling the hut with a stench that clawed at the lungs. The mask shrieked. Otena staggered, clutching at his face, as the smoke coiled around him. Adana seized the moment, rushing forward with a staff tipped in iron. She struck the mask, again and again, as Otena roared in fury. Leave me, he bellowed, his voice twisted, deeper, no longer fully his own. You know not what power you defy. But Adana did not falter. Better to die free than live as a slave to your cursed mask. At last, the staff cracked the mask across its hollow brow. The wood split with a sound like bone breaking. A torrent of black smoke gushed forth, swirling into the air, shrieking like 1,000 voices. The mask crumbled, falling in splinters to the ground. Otenna collapsed beside it, his body trembling, his breath ragged. For a moment, silence hung heavy. Adana thought it was over. But Otenna raised his head. His eyes, once sharp with pride, were now sunken, hollow, and dark as the night sky. His voice rasped with a hunger that was no longer human. "The mask is not gone," he whispered. "It is me." He lunged at her. The hut shook with their struggle. Firelight danced across walls as Adana fought with every shred of strength. But Otenna was no longer the man she had known. He was a vessel, the masked spirit clothed in flesh. The villagers, awakened by the commotion, rushed toward the hut. They burst in just as Adana drove the iron-tipped staff through Otenna's chest. He gasped, blood spilling from his mouth, his body convulsing. For an instant, his eyes cleared. The mask's hold wavered. "Adana," he croaked, voice cracked with something like sorrow. "It promised everything." Then he fell still. The villagers stood in stunned silence, staring at the shattered mask, the lifeless man, the woman trembling with the staff in her hands. The eldest elder knelt, his face pale. The mask of the shrine, the tales were true. It was never to be touched. They burned Otenna's body at dawn, and with it the splinters of the mask. The smoke rose high, carried away by the wind, but Adana could not shake the memory of its whispers. Even as the flames died, she swore she heard it, faint, coiling, mocking. Masks break. But hunger endures. From that day, no one dared approach the old shrine. Its stones crumbled, swallowed by vines, left to silence and shadows. Yet in the years that followed, fortune still walked strangely in the village. A sudden death here, an untimely ruin there. And when the wind sighed through the trees at night, the children swore they heard it, the mask's whisper, calling for another face to wear, another soul to feed.
And that's how the story ended, at least for now. So, let me know what you think about the story in the comment below. Oh, I love to hear your comments, and that way the story continues. Please, don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you haven't subscribed already, and also remember to share the story with your loved ones for a good time. Stay blessed.